Dear children, in today's class we are going to talk about respiration in plants. In the previous topics we have learned about how respiration occurs in animals. In today's class we are going to talk about how respiration occurs in plants. Plant during night time, plant takes up oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. So this is actually respiration process. The respiration process, plant takes oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. Whereas in contradictory, plant takes carbon dioxide for photosynthesis and give out oxygen. So respiration, it is mostly involved, the respiratory substrate or the organic molecules are involved in that. So during respiration in plants, the glucose molecule C6H12O6, it is combined with 6 molecules of oxygen. So here you can see that the oxygen what is absorbed by the plant, it is added with the glucose molecule to produce 6 molecules of carbon dioxide plus 6 molecules of water plus energy. So you can see that during respiration process, the glucose molecule, to the glucose molecule oxygen is added. We call that as oxidation of glucose. Oxidation of glucose, it is there. The oxidation of glucose, it occurs during respiration to produce carbon dioxide, water and energy. This is the carbon dioxide that is evolved out. And during this process, energy is produced. So this energy, it is stored in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate. So here you can see that one glucose molecule that undergoes respiration, it produces 38 ATP molecules. One glucose molecule that undergo respiration or glycolysis process, it produces 38 ATP molecules, which is equal to 2900 kilojoules of energy. So this much energy is produced. So you can see that reaction here, the carbon dioxide, the carbohydrate, the glucose molecule, it combines with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, water and energy. So the energy that is produced here is approximately 2900 kilojoules of energy. So how this gases enters into the plant? Where exactly the respiration process takes place? In the plants, the oxygen enters through a minute pore. That pore is called a stomata. Where this stomata is present. If you take a leaf, the outer layer of the leaf, we call it as epidermis. So here, this part, it is called as upper epidermis. And the lower part, it is called as the lower epidermis. So two epidermises are there in the leaf. The upper part of the leaf, it is called as upper epidermis. The lower part is called as lower epidermis. So if you observe the tissue, the upper epidermis, it is a continuous layer like this. It's a continuous layer. Whereas the lower epidermis, it has some pores like this. It has some pores. It has some pores. So these pores, this is the lower epidermis, this is the upper epidermis. In the lower epidermis, there will be a small pores like this. This pores, we call it as stomata. Stomata. So through the stomata, if you observe that the stomatal structure, it will be like this. Stomata, it is guarded by a guard cell. You might have learned that in the lower class. So the oxygen from the atmosphere, it enters through this. Similarly, the water molecule, it is expired out through this. So almost all gaseous exchanges occurs through the stomata. Where the stomata is present in the lower epidermis of the leaf. So the lower epidermis, it is involved in exchange of gases. So through the stomata, the atmospheric air enters into the plant and it reaches an organelle called mitochondria. There is a respiratory organelle is there. That respiratory organelle that is present within the leaf. That respiratory organelle that is present within the leaf, we call it as mitochondria. So mitochondria is the organelle where the respiration process takes place. I told you about the respiration process. It is the oxidation of food, glucose molecule to liberate carbon dioxide, water and energy. So this process, the respiratory process. This respiratory process, it occurs in the mitochondria. So that's why the mitochondria, it is known as the powerhouse of the cell. The powerhouse of the cell. The mitochondria, it is known as the powerhouse of the cell. This is the region where exactly respiration takes place, and this is the region where exactly the ATP molecule is produced. The ATP molecule is produced. So the ATP molecule, you can see that how they are actually formed. The ATP molecule, this is the typical structure of the ATP molecule. This ATP molecule is mainly formed of the nitrogenous base that is called as adenine. Adenine, this is a nitrogenous base. And the sugar molecule is called ribose sugar. And a phosphate groups are there. So for example, how they are formed. If an adenine nitrogenous base and a ribose sugar and only one phosphate group molecule is there, it is called as adenosine monophosphate. That is called as AMP. Adenosine monophosphate. Adenosine monophosphate. So if it contains only one phosphate group, it is called as adenosine monophosphate, AMP. If two phosphate groups are there, it is called as adenosine diphosphate. If three phosphate groups are there, that is called as adenosine triphosphate. So always in the cells, the ATP is the energy source. ATP is the energy source for all physiological processes which are produced during the respiratory process. That's why the ATP, it is commonly called as currency of the cell. Currency of the cell. It is called as currency of the cell. This is about the structure of ATP molecule and respiratory process. So respiratory process, It involves the production of ATP molecule. The production of ATP molecule.